When it comes to upper body pulling, there are a couple of positions that you'll see. You'll see the horizontal pull, which is a row, and you'll see overhead vertical pulling like a pull-up. So, couple things you want to keep in mind. These pulling motions are meant to target your back. So as you're pulling, you might feel other secondary muscle groups working, but I want you to think about your back as you're doing these exercises. I'm going to show a couple of different variations so we can talk about some of the things that can kind of go right and wrong with pulling. The first one I'm going to show is with a band, and I'm just going to anchor it over here. So when we're pulling, we're using our arm, and we want to create a nice big range of motion. So I'm just going to show a 2-arm row here. One of the things that I see going wrong sometimes is people get to this end point, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then they want to go just a little bit more, and so they start to curl their knuckles inward. So they're making this big flexion in their wrist, and that actually doesn't help the exercise at all. It just makes your wrist really cranky. So resist that urge to curl your wrist. Keep your wrist neutral. I always say it's like Wonder Woman wrist. And you want to think about that space between your shoulder blades squeezing together. So that shows a band variation. You can also do rowing with dumbbells, but of course you need to get into a position where you get into that horizontal row. So a lot of times you'll see a hinged bent over row like this. You want to keep your core nice and tight, and you'll pull. Again, resist the urge to curl your wrist. And the other thing that I see happen a lot is people scrunching their shoulders up. So they start to pull. I'm going to do it without weights because I don't want to hurt my neck. But if you're pulling and you're like scrunching up like this, so keep your shoulder blades pulling down and back. Imagine you've got back pockets and you want to drop your shoulder blade into your back pocket. So it's kind of like that motion, right? So those are my tips there for your rowing exercises. For a overhead pull, you might not be working with a pull-up bar quite yet, but variations you might see include using a band. I'm going to get on the floor for this one. And for this, you want to create some stability here in your lower body. So squeeze your glutes, keep your rib cage tucked nice and tight, neck is neutral, nose is pointing straight down, and imagine you're on a pull-up bar. What would that motion look like? It would look like having straight arms to begin, you're hanging straight under it, and then you're pulling your chin over that bar. So those band handles are just coming right to your shoulder. Think about your back muscles. Think about squeezing those muscles together. And again, keep the wrist neutral, so you don't need to pull and then curl the wrist. So I hope those tips help with your next efforts in your pulling exercises.